Hello, this is Retro Workshop, and here is Necromunda Skirmish Wargame Modification Part 3. This is where I am at thus far, although it is subject to change. I have stuck down all the grid squares. It's 11 by 11, and the characters/models move one grid at a time other than the leaders, which can move 2 grids. It's around 1.5 feet squared, and the entire board is a 2 foot by 2 foot foam board. If you watched and can recall from my former videos, I am here creating my own Skirmish Wargame built upon the already existing Skirmish Wargame, Necromunda Underhive, from Games Workshop, and mine is called Gridlock. I have actually done some work regarding the lore and history and really fitting it into the 40k universe, and making it internally and externally consistent. So I have made my own planet, which is a twin or sister planet to Necromunda. I have created my own vast Underhive for it, which is where the game takes place, called the Grid Field. I will show such progress in the next video. The idea is to fit everything needed to play the game except the terrain pieces on the 2 foot by 2 foot board. At the moment, 5 characters/models on both sides are used for the standard game modes. If you look in the bottom left, you will see some objects, such as a vial filled with green stuff, a crystal, some small playing cards, and some of the tokens that came in the Necromunda box set. They are for the special abilities of the characters, and the crystal and lair token are also used in the game itself as objective markers. So here is roughly where we left off from the last time, around 4 months ago now. And here we started with 8 characters, all the dice, and so on. However, that has dropped greatly since then, as you saw from the first image. Now onto the characters. Here we have the final concept for the Alice in Wonderland all-male hero characters/gang for the Goliath models from Games Workshop's Necromunda. We have, from best to worst, Hatter, Cat, Time, Absalom, Rabbit, Bandersnatch, Dumb, Dee, Hare, and Wilkins. These characters are, of course, taken from both the Tim Burton films. I have not yet completed the figures. These will be seen in the next video. And here the Batman-themed Goliath gang, the first 4 films, all male villains. If you recall from some of my prior videos on this matter, I was first going to use a female gang. However, it simply did not work out in this case, although I already have a few other gangs lined up for the future, and some of them are indeed female. We have, in order of ranking once again, Joker, Face, Freeze, Penguin, Riddler, Bane, Tough, Claw, Frosty, and Clown. I'm really happy with some of the models. Of course, some of the weapons are not yet glued in place, such as Freeze's ice gun and the lesser characters' shotguns. Here are the exact characters I used. If you want to look into the characters and films yourself, they are as follows: Batman 1989, Batman Returns 1992, Batman Forever 1995, and Batman and Robin 1997. Now here we have some insights into the weaponry, mechanics, and ranking system. At the bottom we have the Mad Party Gang, that being the Alice in Wonderland characters, and at the top we have the Villains Gang, that being the villainous Batman characters. I used a spreadsheet from OpenOffice, a great free program. If you look at the top, you can see the different sections. They are in order of rank from best to worst. First we have the names, so if you look down the first column, you can see all the characters. Next to that we have the ranks. First is Commander, leader of the gang, then Knight, champion of the gang, followed by 4 defenders and then 4 apprentices. The idea being that the defenders are the best characters other than the commanders and knights, and they are the defenders of such characters. The apprentices are the worst characters and are the underlings or sidekicks to the defenders and all knights. They are colour-coded as well, and these will be painted onto the bases I gave the models. Commanders are purple, knights are white, defenders are yellow, and apprentices are brown. Now onto the groups. 4 means the highest ranking group. This is always the commander and he is always individual. 3 means the second highest ranking group. This is always the knight plus defenders and or apprentices. 2 is the second highest ranking defender group, and the leader of said group is always the highest ranking defender, followed by an apprentice. 1 is the lowest ranking defender or apprentice group. The leader of the defender gang 1 are always the second best defender. See the Mad Party. Dum and D are both apprentices ranked 7th and 8th, and they are the group 1. 0 means individual defenders without a group/underlings, yet are still very powerful and unique. For the Batman Fiend gang, the individual characters are ranked 5th and 6th, Riddler and Bane respectively. For the Alice in Wonderland Fiend gang, they are ranked 4th and 6th, Absalom and Bandersnatch. You will notice a wonderful equality to these gangs, whilst they are still very different and not identical. For example, there are very few differences between the Commander's Knight and the highest ranking Defender, and the individual characters are mirrors of one another. That is to say, Bane is the strong character, as is Bandersnatch. Absalom is the intelligent character, as is the Riddler. Then we come to credits. The credit system is very simple. It ranges from 10 to 1 in the opposite way of the ranking system. That is to say, the best character is ranked first and thus is worth 10 credits, and the worst character is ranked 10th and thus is worth 1 credit. Next we have the abilities. These are special moves and interactions which can be performed once or twice per game in most cases. The Joker and Cat both have 2 abilities and the rest have 1. All characters with abilities must be defenders and above, and they must be commanders or knights to have 2 abilities, and there can never be 3 abilities available to 1 character. Next we have weapons. The bottom 3 characters all have 1 weapon, the bottom 2 being shotguns. The commanders and knights both have some of the best weapons and 2 weapons each. To balance the game, I wanted the highest ranking apprentices to have one of the most powerful weapons. Dum has the machine, revolver and grenade launcher, and Tough has a machine gun and grenade launcher. Claw and D have different weapons here. Now onto the weapon distance. This is where you will see the equality come through, although a few cases are different. In fact, the Alice in Wonderland gang have slightly better weapons overall and more weapons. However, the Batman Fiend gang has more powerful characters and better abilities, and the gang is easier to use. In essence, the Alice in Wonderland gang somewhat mimics the Escher's speed, strategic style, and the Batman gang somewhat mimics the Goliath's strong, tactical style. Joker and Hatter both have weapon distances of 1G, this being grid squares, meaning there is a grid distance between the 2 characters on the board, and a 0G close combat weapon, which can be extended to 1G, that being the Funhammer and Dewstaff, and it follows a similar equal pattern down the list. There are only a few differences. D has a 1G weapon and Claw has a 0G weapon, and Bane has 0G weapons which become 1G via his special ability, and Bandersnatch only has 0G weapons, although his special ability is in fact better than Bane's. Finally, we have movement. All characters must move 1G other than the commanders, which can move between 1 and 2G. The rules thus far for the game are as follows. An action of some kind must be performed every turn, and the characters cannot move backwards or on a diagonal. However, you can fire in any direction, and they can move sideways and forward of course. You can perform a non-movement action and also choose not to move, such as you can open a door and not move. You have 2 actions per turn, and cannot perform the same action twice within said turn. However, you can perform just 1 movement action, such as the case that you can move 1G with the Riddler and open a door, and that's your turn over. Or you can open a door and choose not to move, or you can move 1G and that's your turn over. You cannot open and close a door within the same turn, and you cannot make 2 movements. Of course, there are many other things to go into, but I will leave it here for now. I will have built more on the board as well, if not completed it, by the next part of this series. I have been Retro Workshop, and you have been watching Necromunda Skirmish Wargame Modification Part 3. Thank you.